Good late Saturday evening. It is the 23rd of September 2017. Right now, here is a look at the big picture. Notice that we have a cold front slash stationary front located over portions of the upper Midwest and the middle and central plains. This would be affecting portions of Minnesota, Nebraska, even parts of Kansas, and back towards Denver and Colorado are all being affected by this cold front right now. You can tell it's bringing a big difference in temperatures, anywhere from 81 degrees being recorded at the 9:30 p.m. hour in the evening on this Saturday night, and you can tell that is in Minnesota. So that's very well above average for this time of the year for a high temperature to be recorded. So they were probably even higher than that earlier on in the day. And then notice we're looking at 40s and 50s in parts of the Dakotas. So a major difference in temperatures. We're going to be noticing that big change in temperatures as it arrives into our region towards the middle of the week. One thing that it has right now that it will not have once it reaches our region is going to be the rain that it is associated with right now. Look at portions of Minnesota back towards the Dakotas. We have a lot of precipitation associated with this cold front as I speak, but this cold front will lose a lot of its punch with precipitation and will focus mainly on just the drop in temperatures by the time it reaches towards our region by midweek. So this is going to not really bring a big rain chance to our region, but rather just an ushering in of more seasonable temperatures for this time of the year. Right now, this is Hurricane Maria, Category 3 hurricane, forecasted by the National Hurricane Center to move up the U.S. eastern seaboard but not affect land. And if there was any land on the U.S. east coast to be affected, it would be the appendage of North Carolina that likes to stick out. That would be where Cape Hatteras is located. A very small chance that this hurricane could turn left and move into portions of the U.S. East Coast, but as of right now, it looks like it's going to really slow down and just really move around into the portions of this Atlantic Ocean and is going to be weakening as it does so. So it will be bringing some rough surf to portions of that area along the East Coast, but for our region, it is not going to be bringing anything too significant, but rather some warmer temperatures off towards the west of it is what we're really dealing with right now. Notice no rain in the region, mid 70s right now. We're going to be looking at overnight lows tonight into the mid 60s. Here is a look at the rain over the next week, and we have hardly any chances at all for rain across our region. This is the cold front right here. By the time we get towards Wednesday, notice it begins to move into our region, but watch what happens. It completely loses the precipitation that it had before and rather just ushers in those more seasonable temperatures that I mentioned. Right now, here we're going to loop it again. Here it is, all of its moisture streaming up from Texas, and we begin to see it lose all of its moisture by the time it moves into our region. But we are looking at that 540 thickness line moving very far south for this time of the year into portions of Michigan and Wisconsin, lowering the thickness numbers. These are the red lines, the thickness numbers, into the 550s for our region. So we will definitely be feeling those cooler temperatures for our region with a high pressure center pretty high also at the surface moving into our region by mid to late week. Here's a look at that ridge of high pressure that we're beginning to look at overtake our region. And once we get towards the middle of the week, though, it just can't hold its ground. That trough moves in. It digs into portions of the Ohio Valley at its strongest point on Saturday and Sunday, so that's when we will be looking at the coolest of temperatures with this so-called cool shot, or cooler shot would probably be the right phrase, because it will definitely be cooler than what we're looking at right now, but is not going to be really all that cool, just cooler than what we're looking at currently. So we're going to be looking at that trough move in around mid to late week, and then we might begin to see, if I were to make this video go even longer and go further out into time, I do think that we will be looking at this transient pattern continuing, where we are looking at just transient warmth and transient cool. I think that's going to continue. Once this cool shot moves in, I think it's going to be in and out pretty quickly. A couple of days ago, or rather a week ago, this cool shot coming in looked to be really around a week and a half to 2 weeks long, and some models were showing it into the middle of October. Now it just looks to last maybe about 5, 6, 7 days, and then a warm-up comes in again right after it. Not near as warm as where we are now. This is unseasonable warmth, but this would be above average temperatures definitely coming back after this cool shot comes through. These above average temperatures that I'm talking about coming back would not be really until around the second or first week of October. So the end of the first week or beginning of the second week. Nothing to really be all that discussed right now, but something to keep in mind as we go into the following weeks. Notice right now we see that cool down coming in, a very dramatic drop in temperatures. We're really going from the upper 80s to 90s all the way into the 40s for that drop in temperatures. 80s and 90s for highs in the daytime, but then 40s for lows in the overnight hours once we get into Sunday and Monday of next week. So right now, the exact temperatures are not all that certain, but just know that a cool down is coming. Temperatures for the highs will be in the upper 60s to low to mid 70s, and then some morning lows into the 40s are going to be likely. Right now, here's a look at the precipitation over the next week. Notice the ridge of high pressure. If I were to draw an H, it would be right in here, and that is what we call the ring of fire, where my mouse is right here. This is where we have the clash of the cool and the warmth. So that is where we're looking at the biggest amounts of precipitation to be recorded, but we're right under the center of that ridge. So we're dealing with some of the hottest temperatures that the ridge is putting out, and we're also dealing with some of the driest conditions that it is favoring as well. So here's a zoomed in look of it. Notice no rain for our region, and we can't rule out an isolated pop-up evening or afternoon thunderstorm over the next week before the cold front moves through. But this would only be around a 10 to 20% chance, so not even really that high enough to be much of a concern. Right now, here's a look at our drought monitor for the Midwest. Notice we're beginning to look at abnormally dry, which is the yellow to even the peach color, showing moderate drought conditions for the regions in parts of the U.S., and we are looking at really this expanding southward, eastward, even in all directions. This is expanding, so we will have to keep a very close eye on it. Here's a zoomed-in view of Kentucky, just a sliver of Ballard and Carlisle counties in the entire state right now dealing with just abnormally dry conditions, but the U.S. drought monitor maps really never tell the real story. Right now, we're looking at very dry conditions across the region, and they are only going to worsen. As you could tell in the few graphics before, this ridge of high pressure right now, the cold front that's moving in on Thursday and Wednesday is not going to be bringing hardly any rain, maybe a drop or two, but it is right now not looking to bring hardly anything. Now, once we get into the following weeks, it continues to look like this dry pattern is going to continue. So any of you farmers that are watching this or anybody that is really concerned about rain, it does not look like we're having a very favorable pattern for it over the next couple of weeks, as far out as I can see. But nevertheless, enjoy this cool shot of cool air that is coming in for the second half of this week after we get through a couple more days of almost record-breaking warm temperatures.